Hello everybody and welcome back to the Virtual Flight Academy. My name is Micah and I am a real-world pilot. However, I am not a real-world instructor. Do not use anything that you learn in this video in real-world flight. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's talk about what we're going to cover today. This video is going to cover stalls and spins. There's going to be two different types of stalls that we do. We're going to have power on stalls and power off stalls, and then we'll cover how to recover from a spin. What we're going to do here is we're going to take off here at Williston, head to the north at about 3,500 feet, and we'll start doing our maneuvers. Now you'll notice I'll do a couple things en route. I will go ahead and do my en route climb, and then set for cruise. We'll do our clearing turns, and then we'll set up for maneuvers and go ahead and complete them. Then we'll return back to the airport, enter 45 downwind for runway 23, and we'll do another landing. So hope this will help you out. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, for taxi checklist, cabin doors closed and latch. That's completed. Parking brake set. Actually, no, I've already done the run-up, so we don't have to worry about that. Let's see. Yep, it's already done. Ready to set. Nav beacon strobes are on. Throttle check and closed. Alright, flaps set. 0. Temperature heat cold. It is in the cold position. Throttle full. Alright, let's go on the runway. Again, not going to be doing any of my radio calls yet. We will get into that in a later lesson. So I did get the Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 update that came out, I want to say it was on Friday. And I finally got it updated. So we're going to see if that helps with this ground friction. Alright, throttle, increase to full, add a little bit of right rudder here. Engine is in the green. Airspeed is alive. And we're going to go ahead and pull up 55, climb 65. Pitching for the speed of 65 knots. Pulling up just a little bit more. There we go. About 5 degrees pitch is about where you're going to be. As we cross 700 feet, we'll make a left turn out of the crosswind leg of our traffic pattern. Left crosswind departure. There's 700 feet. Start making our left-hand turn. Nice gradual 20-degree turn. Awesome. Yeah, and I said north, I meant south, just so you're aware. I apologize about that. Yeah, I actually meant we're going to be heading to the south. So, yeah, disregard that north thing that I said. Alright. En route climb, we're looking for about 56 to 75 knots. I like to go on the higher side, so we're going to go for about 75 knots. I'm going to put in some trim here, so I'm not having to hold this yoke back all the way. There we go. Throttle's full, mixture is full rich, and we'll keep that as is. We're going to climb up to 3,500 feet. Alright, so we're now coming up to 3,500 feet. A little bit of some advice here when you're coming up to your cruise altitude. The first thing you actually want to do is pitch down to maintain your altitude, because you don't want to lose speed and having to try to get that speed back in your cruise level. You want to go ahead and have that speed by the time you pull the throttle back. So is what we'll do is we'll actually adjust our attitude first about 50 feet before we get to 3,500. So right about here, push down, hit that zero, don't want to go below. Now you're just wanting to get about zero. Let it creep up some, and as you speed up, your nose is gonna want to come up anyway. As you can see. All right, and now we'll pull the throttle back. Let's go for about 2,400 RPMs. All right, get this thing trimmed out here. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're actually going to do our pre-maneuver checklist. The pre-maneuver checklist is really simple. You want full mixture. You want to make sure carb heat's off, which it is right now. You want to make sure all your lights are on. You want to make sure if you have a fuel pump, which we don't here in the 152, that your fuel pump is on. And finally what we'll do is we'll actually do our clearing turns. You do this before all maneuvers. We'll make a left-hand turn. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. And what you're doing is you're checking to make sure there's no aircraft in the area. And it's going to be about a 90-degree turn to the left. And this is a good time to practice your turns, making sure that you're not losing altitude, not gaining altitude, your speed staying about the same, altitude staying the same. Paying attention to a lot of things at the same time. Looking outside, scanning for traffic, and maintaining altitude. Alright, so we've done 90-degree turn to the left. We'll now do a 180-degree turn to the right. Again, a nice gradual turn. Looking outside. Do I see any aircraft in the area? And of course I don't right now. I have live traffic turned off. But if you did see some aircraft in the area, just note them if they're close. They may be obstructions. Obviously you might want to move somewhere else. But if there's no other aircraft in your general area, then you're free to do your maneuvers. So you're just clearing, make sure you're not going to hit anybody or anything like that. All right, and there we have it. Now I'm actually going to turn back to the right and head back west here. I don't want to be facing the sun to do these maneuvers, and you'll find. I mean, you should be able to do them while you're facing the sun, but for the first time, yeah, let's not face the sun. So we'll turn to the west here. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is what we call a power on stall. What this simulates is that you are actually on an approach, power off stall. You're on an approach into land, you're coming into land, you're at basically low RPMs, descending about 500 feet per minute with full flaps. You're in that slow flight mode where even just a little bit of incorrect controls can actually put you into a stall. So what we're going to do, the first thing you'll do is you'll actually pull the power back, and we're looking for about 1,700 RPMs or so. But we want to maintain our altitude because this is how we're slowing down. So there's 80 knots. At this point we can go and start bringing in some flaps. So we'll put flaps 1. Flaps 2. Add some of that power back just a little bit, and flaps 3. And now we're going to start our 500-foot rate descent. And notice we are right there. I mean, we are at just over 50 knots. That's about where we want to be. Notice we're descending ever so slowly. Again, looking for about 500. There we go, 500 feet per minute. Now what we're going to do is we're going to cut throttle and pull back. Hold it there. Hold it there, hold it there. There's the horn, and there's the drop. Full throttle. And slowly recover. look at that airspeed. I'm going to make sure we're gaining airspeed, gaining altitude. Flaps come in 1, 2, and finally 3, and then we will pull out of the lost altitude, which was about 200 feet at VY, which of course in this aircraft is 65 knots. So we're a little fast, but that's okay. Getting up to 3,500 feet again, we'll go ahead and level off like we were before. Get that speed back up. Alright, so we've just done the power off stall. Now we're going to do the power on stall. Power on stall is really simple to do. All you're going to do is you're going to bring your throttle back, bring your speed down to your VY speed, which is about 65 knots here, and the Cessna 150, depending on your weight, of course. We're going to pull, once we've got that speed, we're going to add power back in, maintaining that speed and altitude, and then we are going to pull back hard on the yoke, increasing power as if we're climbing out and we're having to avoid an obstacle, avoid a bird or something that's coming to our path while we're actually taking off. What that's going to do is that's going to put us into a power on stall, which has the potential to turn into a spin if you're not careful. So let's do that real fast. Let's pull our power back. Again, look for about 17 to 1800 RPMs or so. Holding our altitude. Alright, there's 65. Add power back in. And pull back. And there's a stall. Full power. And recover. You'll notice I had to put a little bit of rudder in there, not a ton, but a little bit to keep me from turning. I did get off my heading there pretty bad, which is not acceptable to me, but you guys get the idea. I generally want to keep it within 10 degrees of the heading that you're on. You add that rudder to prevent you from spinning, which brings us to our next maneuver, a spin. How do we recover from a spin? Now, normally you would not do this actually in a real aircraft unless it is what they consider to be an aerobatic equipped aircraft. Generally, most trainers are not, and you won't be actually able to do a spin. I was not able to actually enter into a spin in my training, but here in a flight simulator, because it's a flight simulator, we're not actually risking our own lives. We have the great ability to do things that maybe aren't 100% legal in the real world. So obviously, like I said before, don't do what I do here in the real world. This is one of those things. But we're going to do it anyway, and we're going to have fun with it. I'm going to show you guys entering into a spin, and of course, how to recover from it. The way we're going to enter into a spin is I'm going to put myself into basically a stall situation. I'm going to basically put myself into like a slow flight kind of situation here. And as if I'm making my turn from, let's say, base to final. That is a common place for a lot of people to enter to spins, and unfortunately, there's not a lot of room to recover from a spin, and a lot of general aviation pilots actually perish at that point. So we are going to practice so we don't become one of those numbers. And slow flight is really simple. It's a great tool to utilize. All I'm doing is basically I'm putting myself into my full landing configuration while maintaining our altitude. Alright, so right about there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn left and pull back. At the same time, I'm going to kill my power. So I'm going to turn left, pull back, and kill my power. Now what you're going to notice is the aircraft's going to start pitching down, and notice that we're actually in almost this spiral type shape. Now the recover from this is actually pretty easy. Now your ailerons don't have a lot of roll authority, as you can see. I mean, I'm switching it all the way left and right and it's barely moving. So what you do is power to idle, ailerons to neutral, so don't touch your yoke left or right. Then you're going to, just using your feet, apply rudder. I'm just putting a little bit of rudder. And see that? See how I just easily, just gradually just came out of there? Perfect. Now we're going to apply power back in. And we're going to pull up out of the spin. It's that simple, guys. Spins are not something to be afraid of practicing in the simulator. They're not going to kill you in the, obviously in the simulator. In real life they could, but a lot of people have issues with spins mainly because it's something they don't practice. It's something that they haven't tried to do. It's not very difficult to recover. You just got to remember those steps. Power to idle, ailerons neutral, rudder opposite direction of the spin. So if I'm spinning left, I put full right. If I'm spinning right, I put full left. And then elevator as necessary to recover from the stall and power back in, of course. So we'll do that one more time. I'm going to climb back up here to 3,000. We'll go to 3,000 feet here. And we'll do that one more time. This time we'll do it right. And I'll do it in a clean configuration. What that means is I won't have any of my flaps in. Alright, flaps are all the way back in. And we're going to pull up here and climb out. Alright, reaching 3,000 feet. Alright, we're going to bring our power back down a little bit here. We're basically looking at wanting to kind of fly at about 75 knots. Almost as if we're doing a takeoff here. Well, we'll go about 70. How about that? That's a little bit more accurate for a takeoff. Alright, there's 70. Add a little bit of power back in. Hold us there. Alright, perfect. So now what we're going to do is, like last time, we're going to make a right-hand turn. I'm going to pull up and kill my throttle at the same time. So right-hand turn, pulling up and killing my throttle. Getting clean configuration this time. Still pulling up. And there we go. Now we're in a spin situation. Remember, power idle, ailerons neutral, rudder opposite direction, and elevator. That simple, folks. It is that simple to recover from a stall, or a spin, my bad. And stalls, we covered that as well. Alright, so now let's go ahead and head back to Williston. Where is it at? Okay, it's going to be off to my left here, so it's going to be south of my current position. Now this will set us up actually for a very good maneuver to practice and know. It's called a teardrop into the downwind. Whenever you approach an airport and you want to land at the airport, unless it's an emergency situation, you're always going to enter into the pattern at the airport to land. Oops. So we're going to head south here. Towards the airport, which I believe that's the beacon that we're seeing right there. Yeah, which is funny because the beacon shouldn't be on there the day. Microsoft Flight Simulator, woohoo! Alright. Gotta love it. Got to love it. So what I'm going to show you is teardrop into the downwind. What that means is generally if you're coming from the opposite direction of the downwind leg which you want to enter the pattern into, like right now, this is 2-3, the entrance to 23. That's the runway we want to land at. We can't just go straight in. That actually violates the AIM, which is the Airman Information Manual, I believe is the correct term there. Basically, it's how to fly, the proper procedures to fly, or the recommended proper procedures to fly. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move to the right of the airport to set myself up to cross over the field perpendicular to the runway at which I want to land. And we'll cover this, obviously as we continue on. Every single lesson as we come back in and land, this is going to be one of those things that we'll probably use quite a bit. Now, just so you guys know, I'm actually not even touching my yoke right now. I've got my aircraft trimmed out so well that it's sitting there right there, maintaining the exact altitude and speed. Something that you should practice on doing, because this is how you will fly without an autopilot. And all pilots should know how to fly without an autopilot. So the field elevation at Williston is about 40-something feet, I believe, and so not very high. And generally, you want to fly 500 feet above the traffic pattern altitude. Now, the traffic pattern altitude, if it's at Williston, which, if I'm remembering correctly, is at about 40-something feet, you're looking at a traffic pattern altitude of about 1,000 feet, which means that you need to cross over the field no less than 1,500 feet. So we can actually go ahead and pull back our throttle and start a descent into Williston. And we're looking for about 1,500 feet. And a 500-foot descent rate is about what you want. We'll do our before landing checklist. Virtual seating position is set. Mixture is full rich, and carburetor heat needs to be in the on position. Let me turn that on real fast. There we go. Alright, there's the airport right there, so we are in a good position right now. Once we get into the radio procedures, I'll let you guys know how to actually properly let everybody know what you're doing. This is one of those things that you don't often hear on the radio, unfortunately. Sometimes you do. I feel like a lot of pilots would go out of their way to avoid this maneuver, when in fact it's a very nice maneuver to be able to do. Alright, so we can go ahead and start turning into the airport now. Alright, and there's 1,500 feet. Add some power back in, maintain our altitude. And basically what we're going to do, we're going to cross over the field. Once we cross over, we can go ahead and start descending again. And we're going to enter a right teardrop turn. Basically you're going to make it like a teardrop shape or a raindrop shape. And you're going to enter into the left downwind at a 45-degree angle, just like you would if you're on the other side of the airport. But you're doing this with this maneuver to enter in, and you'll see what that looks like here in just a second. It's kind of hard to see. Of course, you can't really look over, but you can see that I'm coming not necessarily perfectly perpendicular, but you generally want to be right over midfield perpendicular, but this is fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're not going for perfection. Alright, so we should be right over the airport now. Yep, right over the airport, at which point now we can go ahead and bring that power back down a little bit and start our descent. But we want to wait. We don't want to start making our turn now, because then we'd be right on top of the runway. We want to wait until that runway is basically visible where our tail is. Generally it's about 1.5 miles away, which is if you have a GPS or DME, it's really easy to see it then. Otherwise, you have to just go visually here. If I could see it. You can also time it based off your speed. Alright, that's probably good enough right there. So what we'll do now is we'll start a right-hand turn. And we'll want to do a right-handed 2-minute turn. And that will bring us perfectly in to a pattern. Again, watching our altitude, we want to be at traffic pattern altitude once we reach our downwind leg here. Add a little bit more power in as we approach our traffic pattern altitude. And now we are entering our 45 for the downwind for runway 23. Look at that, guys. It is that, to me, that's pretty cool to see that coordination happen. So definitely practice that. It's a very useful thing to have. So we'll enter our downwind leg now. Alright, perfect. Now, if you guys remember from our last lesson, what we're going to do is we're actually going to put the runway off our wing at about the right position where we've been practicing. And hopefully you have been practicing, because practice will make perfect. Well, good practice will make perfect. Alright, there is the threshold, so we're about at the threshold, at which point, as you know, we can pull our throttle back some more. Maintaining altitude for now. Waiting for that to hit 80 knots. There's 80 knots, and first notch of flaps. We're about 500 feet per minute. Looking off our left shoulder here. And start making our base turn now. Now, as you can see, we're making our turn from downwind to base. You can see where if you entered into a very slow position here and you enter to a spin, how you don't have a lot of time to recover. And that's where those deaths are happening, are these low and slow positions. Those are your most vulnerable times as a pilot, is low and slow. Alright, now we're on our base leg. Everything's looking good. Go ahead and pull the throttle back even more. Add the second notch of flaps. And we'll start making our turn now into final. Again, it's a perfect place for you to enter into a spin that you cannot recover from. So be very vigilant about your speeds during these periods of time. Got the runway in sight. Did a little bit too sharp a turn there, but that's okay. It's better to be a little early than a little late, because you don't want to try to overcompensate and come back on. Again, that's where you enter into a spin. You enter too high of an angle, your load factor increases, your stall speed increases, and then boom, you've stalled out and spinned. Alright, full flaps. Pulling the throttle back. Again, we're looking for about 60 knots on that final approach speed. And 55 right when we do our round out. Aiming for that 23. They did say they improved the ground effect, so we're going to see if that's the case. And round out, throttle to idle, into basically slow flight, and slight flare here. Just holding that nose off. And there we go. Nose down. Perfect. Look at that. So easy. Alright guys, hope this video has helped you out. If you did, be sure to like the video. Comment down below with your favorite part of the video and any questions you may have. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification icon so you get notified when I go live as well as when I release more videos. I do appreciate you watching. If you want to support me financially, you can by hitting that join button down below or heading over to patreon.com/mmflightclub. Don't forget to join me on Discord as well. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys next time up in the sky.